If an avoidant does this, they're discarding you. There's a chilling moment in relationships with avoidance that many people don't see coming: the discard phase. It's not always dramatic or explosive. In fact, it's often quiet, calculated, and deeply confusing. If you've ever been in love with a dismissive avoidant, you know their patterns. They come close, they pull away, they give you just enough to keep you hanging on. But when they're discarding you, their behavior changes in subtle but powerful ways. It's like a switch flips, and suddenly the person who once seemed interested or even loving becomes distant, detached, and indifferent. The most painful part? They rarely communicate clearly that they're done. Instead, they leave you questioning yourself, wondering if you did something wrong, while they emotionally disappear. This isn't because you're unworthy of love. It's because avoidants struggle with intimacy so deeply that discarding someone feels safer than working through their fears. One of the clearest signs an avoidant is discarding you is their emotional shutdown. Avoidants are already guarded, but during this phase they seem almost robotic. Conversations feel transactional, their warmth disappears, and they stop showing curiosity about your thoughts and feelings. If you share something vulnerable, they may respond with silence, irritation, or a blank stare. This emotional withdrawal is a form of self-protection, but to you it feels like rejection. It's as if they've put up a wall you can't climb over, no matter how hard you try. They may stop initiating contact, answering texts with one-word replies, or even start ghosting you for days. To an avoidant, this is a way of creating emotional distance so they don't feel trapped. To you, it feels like they've already left the relationship emotionally, even if they're still physically present. Another sign is their shift from closeness to criticism. When an avoidant starts discarding you, they often justify their emotional exit by finding faults in you or the relationship. Suddenly, the things they once admired about you are framed as flaws. Your warmth becomes clinginess, your need for connection becomes too much, and your love feels like pressure. They may even rewrite history, convincing themselves they were never really that invested, or that the relationship was doomed from the start. This helps them avoid guilt or vulnerability. By convincing themselves you're the problem, they can justify leaving. This critical behavior is a defense mechanism, not a reflection of your worth. Avoidants fear intimacy so much that they sabotage it when it starts feeling real. Then comes their tendency to avoid accountability. When an avoidant is discarding you, they won't have deep conversations about the relationship. They don't want to face emotional tension because it feels overwhelming, so they'll dodge serious talks or keep interactions surface level. You might try to discuss what's going on, and they'll respond with phrases like, "I don't want to talk about this," or "You're overthinking things." This makes you doubt yourself and feel like you're the problem, which is exactly how avoidants maintain control of the situation. In their mind, avoiding conflict protects them from emotional exposure, but for you, it feels like abandonment. Avoidants also tend to create emotional and physical space during the discard phase. They'll spend more time alone or immerse themselves in work, hobbies, or social media. You might notice them pulling away from shared routines. Things you used to do together now become solo activities. They might stop introducing you to friends or family, stop making future plans, and subtly start detaching from your shared life. This distancing is often their way of exiting without having to say, "I'm leaving." Avoidants dislike confrontation, so they'll withdraw instead, hoping you'll eventually get the message. The painful truth is that this behavior can make you feel invisible, as though you no longer matter to them. A more subtle sign is their emotional detachment from your highs and lows. When an avoidant is discarding you, they no longer share in your joy or pain. Something exciting happens in your life, and they respond with indifference. You're going through something difficult, and they seem cold or unavailable. This emotional flatness is their way of cutting ties internally before they do it externally. Avoidants fear the intensity of emotions, both theirs and yours, so when they start discarding you, they go numb. This numbness helps them justify the separation, because in their mind, if they don't feel strongly, the relationship must not be worth keeping. One of the hardest parts of being discarded by an avoidant is that it often happens quietly. They may not say, "I'm done," but their actions scream it. They'll stop putting in effort, stop showing up emotionally, and stop making you feel chosen. You'll sense their absence long before they officially leave, which creates a painful kind of limbo. You're still in the relationship, but it feels like you're alone. This is one of the most emotionally damaging aspects of being with an avoidant, the way they discard without closure. They leave you with unanswered questions, while they convince themselves they're doing nothing wrong because they didn't explicitly end things. It's important to understand that avoidants discard people not because they don't care, but because they fear intimacy. Their attachment style was often formed in childhood environments where emotional closeness felt unsafe or overwhelming. As adults, they repeat that pattern by sabotaging relationships when they start to feel too vulnerable. Discarding someone becomes a form of control. It allows them to feel safe again. In their minds, leaving before they're left prevents rejection, even though it hurts both them and their partner. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior, but it does explain why they act this way. Another layer of the discard phase is their ability to appear calm or indifferent while you're hurting. Avoidants often seem emotionally detached because they've spent their lives learning to suppress their feelings. While you're in pain, they may seem unaffected, which makes the rejection feel even worse. But under that calm exterior is fear. Avoidants aren't as unaffected as they appear. They're simply masters at disconnecting from their emotions. That emotional shutdown is their shield, not a sign that they never cared. So how do you protect yourself if you're being discarded by an avoidant? The first step is recognizing that their behavior isn't about your worth. Their withdrawal, criticism, and coldness are a reflection of their fear of vulnerability, not proof that you're unlovable. If you find yourself chasing them, begging for closeness, or trying to prove your value, pause. Avoidants pull away when they feel pressured, and no amount of overgiving will change that. Instead, reclaim your energy. Focus on your healing, your independence, and your emotional safety. The more you try to force closeness with someone who's discarding you, the more you lose yourself in the process. It's also essential to set boundaries. Being with an avoidant can feel like a constant emotional roller coaster, but boundaries protect your peace. If someone is discarding you, pulling away, or treating you as if you don't matter, it's okay to step back. You don't have to beg for love or fight for someone to see your value. In fact, your strength lies in your willingness to walk away from someone who doesn't know how to love you deeply. Understanding avoidant behavior gives you power. When you can see their discard phase for what it truly is, a defense mechanism, you stop taking it personally. You realize their withdrawal isn't proof that you're too much. It's proof that they can't handle emotional intimacy. And while empathy for their struggle is important, your job isn't to fix them. Your job is to choose yourself. In the end, being discarded by an avoidant can feel devastating, but it's also an opportunity. It's a moment to see the truth about the relationship and reclaim your emotional freedom. You deserve someone who chooses you fully, not someone who keeps you at arm's length because they're afraid to love deeply. If you've been through this pain, take it as a sign to focus on your healing, strengthen your self-worth, and surround yourself with relationships that feel safe and mutual. The discard phase isn't about your inadequacy, it's about their fear. And once you see that clearly, you'll stop chasing those who can't meet you where you are.